Yeah, so, and then after a few years, we decided that we would move, and we moved to Clare.
Okay.
My husband was the senior employment officer at BHP,
Mm-hmm.
and that wasn't employing anymore. They'd shut things down and things were quite off. So we decided that it's time to move on, and we went to Clare. Um, Found that beautiful after Wyalla's pretty desolate, although there's a beauty in the desert around Wyalla. It is pretty, and we lived in Clare for about 12 years. I managed to get a job there with Job Network, and while I was there, I did my workplace trainer and assessor. And a lot of work that you do with long-term unemployed people involves a bit of social work. Sometimes they've got barriers to employment, so you need to work through some of those before they're ever going to get a job and stay there. So, but I enjoyed doing that as well. So,
What are the types of barriers that you found?
I just think people, when they're unemployed, and it goes for a long time, because we had a catchment area that went up to Peterborough and down around, all around, they sort of get into managing on the money and doing bits and pieces, so their life's really okay. They think it's okay, but of course the government don't want to keep paying benefits, they want them to work, and so that sort of rattles their chains a little bit. And sometimes kids have got to get off the school bus at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, so they can't get a job because they've got to be to get the kids and drive them home. So they're country areas, so there's some of those things. So but we taught all sorts of things, and we certainly did lots of vineyard courses, obviously, because that's the area. And we were lucky enough to get our outcomes, that the government were happy, and some of that's like seasonal work too. So that sort of gives people a bit of a chance between picking and odd tying and pruning and all that stuff.
So did you have to go teach people how to pick and
Well,
prune
I coordinated some of that, but I certainly didn't do the teaching. We had to get some experts to do that. So there was a lot of paperwork, obviously, and then we taught job search skills. How to get a job and a resume and that sort of stuff. We also did some lifestyle stuff, because at that stage, if a single mum, her last child turned 7, they had to do some training to get back into the workforce. That was so we used to do like really short courses. I used to teach computing, basic computing. We used to do some sewing. We used to do cake decorating. A few things like leisure courses that would get them into the swing of things to get them studying and stuff again. So
sounds like a bit of variety in the work as well.
It was good. It was good
And rewarding.
Yes, I thought it was rewarding, and just see somebody blossom a little bit and gain a little bit of confidence, in themselves, because sometimes when you're home and there's a tribe of kids and that's all you got, you sort of lose yourself. So,
and you just aren't having adult conversations either.
No, and they've got no money, so they can't go anywhere or do anything because they haven't got enough money to, it's very basic. So that gives them an outing and a learning something and they meet people. Yes, it's a social thing.
Yeah,
it's really important.
Is there a story that stands out for you from that time of you working in that area? Or stories?
I used to find that if they came in and did the cake decorating, which was just very basic, and used to make flowers and all that sort of stuff, they would then look at, maybe I can do a computing course, so, or maybe I want to go and work in the vineyards, because the girls used to as well, because that's really good. Sometimes that can work for school hours to be working in a vineyard. So then they would come on to those courses and then go on.
Yeah. So it's like empowering them with a really small thing that I'm sure is difficult just for some. And then they were able to go on and
I can remember we used to we had a workshop. They used to do welding courses and things as well for the fellas, and they'd be all huffy because they have to come in for a whole 4 weeks, and that's rock their boat a little bit. By the time you get to the end of the 4 weeks, and then what am I going to do next week now? It's finished. So that's just so
great. And by the time you were in Clare, the size of the household
we'd lost a few. They'd spread out because they got older, and we still had Alison with us. She was a bit younger than the boys. Some were still in Whyalla. Some had moved to the city, to Adelaide. So we were still the middle place. Everybody used to come and stay.
So you could put your attention more fully to your work and helping others through that as you've been doing. That's fantastic. And had you studied some social work along the way, did you say?
Yes, along the way. Yes, when I was actually working in Whyalla. Yes, so just do that bit by bit. And then I did the same with the workplace training and assessor. So then unfortunately I got leukemia, which didn't help things.
Oh, wow.
And my husband had a heart attack, which meant we were travelling backwards and forwards to Clare all the time for treatment, and I couldn't work. I was so sick. I just couldn't work. So we decided to move to Adelaide. I had a few years where I wasn't really doing a lot. I had a very supportive boss from Employment Directions, so I used to catch a train to Gawler and a day a week and still do some training with younger children, just to keep my hand in. And then a little bit later on when I was better, I actually applied for a position with Baptist Care, and I worked with teenage girls that were under the care of the minister.
What does that mean, under the care of the minister?
It means they've been in foster care. And in several different places. One lass, I used to do overnights with them, which would mean I'd start work at 5 and we'd cook a meal together, do what we had to do, get up in the morning, have breakfast, and then get them to school or whatever they were doing, and basically try and teach them some life skills. I did that for a couple of years, and then I was offered a position as a coordinator, which meant I was the one that was in charge of the team. And one of the lasses, when I was booking her in to come in, talk to her about coming into one of our houses, I asked her, how many foster homes have you been in? And she was 16, remember, and she thought 20 or 21. And so she really hadn't been anywhere long enough to learn anything. And so the idea was that we would have her until she was 18 and try and teach her how to look after a house, pay bills, do shopping, all of that sort of stuff. Another one of our young ladies that we got, that I was in one of my teams, she'd been living on the streets for a couple of years, and families had got hold of her and told her that she needed to do this, and she was not a happy chappy. She didn't want a house. She didn't want to have to do this. But after several months, she got really house proud, and she'd complained to me that the workers left their cups on the sink. But it was just a chance for them to learn some living skills that they obviously hadn't had by not being in one place long enough. So those things you just pick up from your family life. You just know your mum does that, and so you got to do that, or everybody works together, and somebody takes the garbage out, and somebody does something else. But if you're not in that situation for any length of time, you don't learn those things.
Yeah, wow.
I hadn't thought of that before.
Beg pardon?
I had not thought of that before, that would be a barrier to something like that.
Yes.
Just not having that around them to know what to do.
Yes, and mostly they had issues, obviously, because there's no attachment. Attachment, when you're a baby, you're attached. You get attached to your parents. You get attached to your siblings. You have that family grounding. Well, most of these young people, unfortunately, didn't get that. So that's missing in their life. So they don't really. I don't value anything because they've never been anywhere long enough to have anything to value. So yes.
Wow.
But I enjoyed doing that work. It was really good.
It must have been a balance between being rewarding, but also your heart would break for each and every.
Absolutely. And then I would get really mad when they didn't come home when they were supposed to. So there's a whole lot of rigmarole, like if you've got to report them missing and do all the paperwork, and then they'd rock up a couple of hours later and so you have to unreport them missing and undo all the paperwork. So
So you kind of became a mum to a whole bunch of other teenagers.
Yes, by that stage I had grey hair, so I was actually a grandma.
Oh, okay, a grandma, and I'm sure they appreciated that.
Yes, well, because they hadn't had that in their life either. And at Baptist Care, I think they were fairly careful that in each team they would have somebody that was older, as well as the young people, you know, so...
Just in case it had sort of maybe bad experiences of a mother figure, so that, there was an older person there to help with that stuff.
So that was quite rewarding. And I did that till I retired. When I started at 65, enough's enough. Okay. It's time to pack it in.
Right. So you put your feet up and life was...
sure. Sure.
Sounds like it, yeah.
It hasn't actually worked out like that.
Thank you for watching this short clip of Life Bursts. You can like, subscribe or follow for more, or head to rawcut.com.au.